Good evening, my dear Facebook friends, those of you who are joining on the Confidence Garden page. Welcome. Hello. As ever, if you're watching the recording, you know that for a few minutes at the beginning you can skip this bit because I will be waffling whilst Facebook just renamed it. Sorry, Mark Zuckerberg, or is it Mark Zuckerberg? That whilst I am checking first of all that it's gone live. Oh, I can see that there's somebody on, so do say hi. But also because it does take a while to get people around. Oh, now something new is happening on Facebook as well, which is always interesting to say the least. So I was going to do something there, but it won't let me do it. So I apologise for the lovely person that is on at the moment, that I have got the side of my face to you. But welcome as people are slowly joining. This is great. I can see that my earring's hanging out as well. So do drop in and just say hi so I can give you a shout out, because it is nice. It is nice to know who is here. It's nice to be able to join you in the conversation. So it's always great. Hi, Alyssa. To be able to do what I've just done with Alyssa, which is just to say hi. So remembering that as well, please do, as a number of you did last week, which was really fantastic, is remember that you can invite people to watch by tagging them as you would do in any post on Facebook, or you can actually just share this directly to your page if you prefer to do it that way, so that you can share this information with people, because I am pretty sure that you know somebody in your life, family, friend, hi Vicky, work colleague, somebody, hi Rachel, that either comments on, moans about, gets frustrated with the fact that they feel like they're stuck and they're going round and round in circles, they're never getting anywhere, that the same old's happening, same shizzle, different day, that kind of thing. So make sure that you drop in and say hi as you're doing the piety. I need to tell you about something at the moment as to why my speech is a bit funny. And so I can give you a shout out, remembering that you can share. And as always, please remember that the emoticons are really helpful for a number of reasons. Hi Shelley. Not only does it let me know that you love me, no, I'm joking, that it lets me, I throw myself off there, but by doing that, it lets me know that you're understanding that what I'm saying is making sense. So that's really helpful, because obviously if I was in a room with you, I'd be able to say, does this make sense? And I'd be able to see the nods or the quizzical faces and know whether it needs more explanation. But in this scenario, I am sat talking to my phone and I can't see any of your gorgeous faces. So it would be really helpful. And I've just realised it does look like I've got a tree growing out of my head. So let me remove my wonderful fake flowers. And because that will distract me if nothing else. And yeah, so the more of those that you can do, it also helps with Facebook for it to be able to reach other people as well. So please feel free to get trigger happy on those emoticons, as well as joining in the conversation. Now, for those of you who may or may not have joined the confidence conversation before, this is how it works. I have a topic that I bring to the table, and it's either to do with, maybe it's something that I'm experiencing in my life, maybe it's something, thank you whoever's doing that, maybe it's something that I'm just noticing coming up for a lot of clients in one-to-one sessions or in workshops. It may be that somebody has messaged me privately and said, could you talk about this? Could we have a question around this? Which, by the way, what's really helpful when you do message me, and you can do it straight on this page and direct message me, or you can email me, jules@juleswyman.com, is make sure you know, tell me what your question is, because obviously I can't deal with one-to-one stuff in this kind of forum that unfortunately or fortunately goes on within a one-to-one scenario. So it's really important to frame up what it is that you want answered as a question. So a really simple way of putting it is, hi Jules, this is my question. Simple thing. I know that for a lot of us, and I know I would have done this before, is that we feel the need to give a lot of content, a lot of information, a lot of resources, a lot of story background as to why we're asking the question. And if you want to, that's great, but I don't have the time to get into that level of conversation via those kinds of messages. But what's great is when you can just say, here's my question, or this is what I'd love to know more about. So before we do go any further into this evening's topic, I need to let you know that you may or may not be able to tell just by how my eyes are, if I'm honest, is that I do actually have quite a strong headache at the moment, and that's why my words are kind of going off in different tangents. So I'm doing everything that I know how to be able to do to deal with that. And the thing is it's there, and I've done everything I can. There's nothing else, hence why it's lime water this evening and not a cup of tea. So just bear with me if I go off or if I seem to be wandering a little bit. I'm wanting to stay focused, and sometimes today this has been pulling my attention. So please bear with me whilst I do with that. But for those of you who are just joining, as I say, as the other ladies, and there's probably gentlemen on here as well, do just drop in and say hi. If that's all you want to do, just so that I can give you a shout out, that's absolutely fine. And yeah, remember you can share emoticons. I think I've done all the other housekeeping rules. So this evening, frustrated with going around in circles, frustrated with getting stuck, and frustrated might not be your word, by the way. It might be annoyed, fed up, tired, saddened. What other words might people use? What might you use? How might you phrase it if you've noticed that you are doing the same behaviour over and over again, or if you are recognise that you've not created a new habit, it's the same habit that's just triggering off over and over and over again. How would you talk about it? What would be the language that you'd put it in? I know for myself it would be very much more around I'm frustrated, or I'd probably say I'm pissed off, or I might get a bit angry about it. And I think a lot of the time, feel free to put in what your version is in there as well, because I think a lot of the time when we notice that's happening, it's because we have an expectation that we're going to be getting different results, and we're not seeing different results. We're seeing the same pattern behaviours. And by the way, let me clarify here that I'm not necessarily talking about that you want other people to behave in a certain way, or you want organisations or the weather to be different and it's the same old, because those things you don't have control over. To be honest, you have very little control over your own thoughts and processes and habits and behaviours anyway. But let's stick with yourself when you get frustrated, annoyed, fed up. However you might describe it for yourself, that things aren't going the same way, and are going the same way. I mean. And I think a lot of that is because we have this assumption that because we've made a decision that, right, I want things to be different, that we're going to get different results, and we're not seeing those results, so we get annoyed and pissed off about it, quite frankly. Or it's kind of like we feel like we get stuck on this hamster wheel, or stuck in a rut, and just not moving anywhere, just not moving forward in any way, shape or form. It's just, the hamster wheel is just going round and round and round, and nothing's ever changing. It's, what's the point? Nothing ever changes. That's another kind of statement I know that I would hear sometimes. And the other thing that I know that I would say would be that it's the same shit, different day. Or I would usually say same shizzle, because shizzle then kind of makes me laugh and think about things in a different way. And I think part of the challenge that we've got is that I think a big thing actually is honesty, and that we're not being honest with ourselves. We say we want things to be different. We say we want to do things differently, or experience things in a different way, or get different results, or we've got these expectations and it's not working out, and why has it failed again, etc., etc. And yet we haven't taken the time to be really honest with ourselves as to what is going on or what has gone on. And I remember having a conversation with somebody quite a long time ago now, and this was about weight. And I can remember, this is about me, I was saying this to somebody about my own weight. And I remember saying to them, but I've tried everything. And they looked at me and they said, and I think at that time I was probably about 27, 28 years old, maybe a little bit older. I was probably a little bit older actually. And I remember, the kind of battle cry of, I've tried everything and nothing works for me. It's all right for everybody else. And this person very beautifully just looked at me and went, really, you've tried everything? And I knew, even before I'd even said those, the statement of I've tried everything, I knew that I was lying. But at that moment in my life, as much as I wanted this body to look differently, because that's what it was about at that moment in time, I wasn't being honest with myself, and I wasn't being honest with what I was prepared to do. So my frustration about the same old thing going round and round and round was, I'd go and see an outfit and I'd kind of go, oh, I really want that, and I'd go and pick it out, and I knew nothing about body shape, body style, about how clothes are cut. I knew nothing about any of that. So I would just try on stuff and not even have the comprehension that style of clothing, for example, has been cut and created for a completely different body shape to the one that I have. But I'd be trying to get myself into that usually trousers, and then would get so annoyed that it's not fair. And here I go again, same old, nothing ever fits me, blah, blah, blah. But actually, it is about being honest. The moment, for me, my weight changed, my relationship with my body changed, and my relationship with food changed the moment I started to become honest. And when you are honest, and it's not that you have to wear, as I say quite often, it's not about that you have to take an ad out in the paper or wear a sandwich board or put a t-shirt on that says, hey, by the way, I'm being honest and this is my truth. It's not about that. It's about up here. It's about being really honest and starting to listen to those thoughts and listen to yourself, in the sense of recognizing that by me going into woe is me, life is hard, it's not fair, I've tried everything and nothing ever works, is that I was being a victim. I'm assuming that makes sense. I was assuming I was being a victim. I was kind of assuming that nothing's ever going to change, nothing can work for me, it's not possible, it means I'm not taking any responsibility whatsoever. And now I'm using the example of my physical body and how I was relating to that, but it could be anything. It could be, to be honest, I could pretty much go through all of these subjects for myself and give you personal stories if you really wanted me to. But it doesn't matter whether it's to do with your financial situation or your relationships or your work or your career or your business or whatever it may be, is that if you're frustrated because something is not moving forward, and for you, your perception is that it's going round in circles, then just stop and take stock. Because let's face it, if you're getting the same results, I know it's cheesy and I know it's overused, but if you're getting the same results, you must be doing the same thing. And if you do the same thing, you're going to get the same results. Nothing's going to change unless something changes. And it doesn't matter how much or how big that thing is that changes, but something has to change for you to get a different outcome. And if you are looking at this from your own perspective, and whether, as I say, whether it's to do with finances or your career or relationships or your body or whatever it may be, you have got to look at it, you've got to start looking at it differently in order for you to be able to get out of that space of frustration. Does that make sense? Shelley's put, I get annoyed with myself when I get frustrated. How's that working out for you, Shelley? And you've also put, in the last week, I've recognised a couple of frustrations which keep occurring. I decided to write them in my journal and ask myself a few questions about how I can resolve these frustrations. So actually, Shelley, let me give you a different thing here. Yes, you can look at how to resolve the frustrations. But how do you get frustrated in the first place? How does anybody get frustrated in the first place? How does anyone do that? Because this is where we're disempowering ourselves and we're not taking responsibility, that we think it's the result. We think it's the external thing that's frustrating us, because it's not the way that we want it to be. But we have to be creating that up here first. We have to be creating the description, the dialogue, the expectations, the rules, the beliefs, the values around that thing for us to be getting frustrated, because we've created this internal, this is how it's meant to be. And then we've got an external version and our perception of that external version. And when either or both of those don't match this internal perception that we've created, then quite frankly, we're scuppering ourselves. We're the one that's creating that's where the frustration sits, is that I've created this internal image, this is how I want it to be, but it's not, it's this way, and therefore that's not fair, and I'm frustrated because it's not that way. So, first and foremost, start to explore, how are you creating that frustration? Because if you're not doing that and you're blaming the external world, then you're disempowering yourself, full stop. You're disempowering yourself. And so, for example, if I go back to the body example that I was talking about a moment ago, when I said that, and I know that one of the habit patterns and behaviours that I have to be very aware of for myself, I could if I chose to, I'm being very careful if I choose, because it's not even a choice. It can happen automatically. It's a strategy that we've so many of us created. We have hundreds of strategies that we create for various reasons as we grow up. One of my strategies that I learned was about playing the victim, because for whatever reason I got attention. It felt like love to me, even if it was only in here. Whatever it may be, that was a strategy that I put in place. And if I'm not careful, that strategy will just kick off automatically. And I have to be vigilant and dedicated to be able to witness that happening in order to take a step back from it. And we have to be very careful with behaviours like that, of it's not fair and why is this happening to me again? And if you go, unfortunately, if you start to go down the why route with a lot of questions, it's going to take you in that route. So be very careful, and using that question that I know you all have heard me say before, Shirley, because you've been on and watched a number of these, which is, what can I do? What can I do about this? And if the answer that you get back is nothing, you're going to have to let that go. Because if there is absolutely nothing that you can do, and that can be really challenging with some circumstances, because it may be that you want to help somebody and they don't want your help. That's really frustrating to see somebody else doing the same habit patterns over and over again, but you're feeding that because you're doing the same habit patterns over and over again. And to actually recognise there's nothing that you can do and something else needs to get your attention, that's really important to recognise as well. Rachel says, I'm sometimes so focused on the goal and the change happening now, I get frustrated when the results are not what I expected. Is it more about small steps and daily practice? It could be. It could be, Shelley. Rachel, sorry. So say, for example, I know at this moment in time that you're slightly incapacitated with a poorly foot. So therefore, you can't go out running. You can't do that at this moment in time. And no matter, even if I just cut my finger, we've got these amazing bodies that can heal. They're phenomenal. That they look after themselves. It's amazing. Still blows my head that I can cut my finger and this body regenerates itself. It puts itself back together. It's amazing. But it doesn't matter if it's a tiny cut, or whether it's a badly broken ankle and foot, or whether it's bad burns or whatever it may be. It can't happen overnight. The body needs time to be able to do that. So it happens over time. And then as that healing process happens, then you can metaphorically and literally take small steps and do those little daily practices. But it's about being vigilant and being on, giving the appropriate thing your attention is probably what I want to say. And I think one of the main things that I want to make sure that I share with you this evening is that I did not realise this when I started out, when I started out in my self-evolution discovery journey, whatever you want to call it, with personal development and with coaching and then with my spiritual practices, etc. But what you see, there's that head brain thing disappeared. Ah, I know what it was. What I hadn't realised, I thought I knew myself. I thought I knew the patterns and behaviours that I do. And I really genuinely thought I knew myself. And it was only when I started to have people feedback, you know, I'd be in a course and somebody would feed back and say, are you aware that you do, whatever it may be, fiddle with your hair when you're talking. And it was only when somebody would do that and I'd be like, oh, no, I wasn't aware that I was doing that. But it took somebody else, a stranger usually, that didn't know me, to be able to reflect that back in order for me to be able to see that. Now, when you are working with somebody, be that a mentor, be that a coach, be that a colleague, be that an accountability partner, whatever it may be, that needs to be a key part of the process. Is that if you are getting frustrated because you're going round and round in circles with something and nothing's changing, the thing is you're going to have to think about it differently and potentially do things differently in order to get different results. Now, I say potentially because sometimes it may be like I was saying earlier, that there is nothing that you can do. So that step of the process disappears, which, well, I suppose the thing that you do is you give something else your energy and attention. But it's really important to recognise that you've got to be able to see those behaviours. You've got to be able to see those habit patterns for yourself. And in all honesty, I know that this is not easy. And I am going to be I'm not going to apologise for pushing coaching in that sense and the value that it gives. I know because of the feedback that I get from, whether it be in workshops. I ran a workshop last week and the feedback was amazing, in the sense of people just saying, I've just had some headspace, or you've said a couple of things that I hadn't even realised I was doing, or so somebody was using certain phrases over and over again. And I said, you know, what do those phrases mean? It's a little bit like, what was the one that you said, Shelley? I get annoyed with myself when I get frustrated. Well, how does that work? And what value does that actually give? And it's things like that, to be able to reflect that back to people. It's a challenge for us to be able to do for ourselves, simply because 90 to 98% of what we think and do on a daily basis is, if we are not bringing our awareness to it, it's just happening automatically. It's just, the information is just chucking out, the behaviours, the comments, the thoughts, whatever they may be. And that's what's then running our lives. And that's where we do the same habit patterns and don't understand why we're getting the same results. And then we get frustrated because we've got this image of these new results that we want to have, and we're getting the other results, and the head feels like it's going to explode, quite literally, at the moment. So it's about being aware of that, and the only way that you can step away from that, journaling's a great one that's been mentioned. Taking those small small steps daily is also a great practice, and it's about noticing, okay, how could I think about this differently? What could I do differently? How can I interact with this differently? Because if you think, it's not even about doing. If you think the same thoughts, if you engage with the same thoughts, indulge those thoughts, if those thoughts, those stories get your attention, then you are going to get the same results. People are going round and round in circles and they think that they only have to change their actions outside. Well, what if you changed your story about yourself, for example, your belief about yourself? You know, I had a realisation the other day about a particular person that I was working with, of that they are telling themselves the same story over and over and over and over and over again. And it's only coming out in these kind of little snippets. And I just reflected this back to them and said, who would you be without that story? Why, that's who I am. No, it's not. That's just a story that you have. What would happen if you stopped telling yourself, if somebody, not you, didn't have that story and they were doing the same things, what kind of results would they get? Well, they'd be doing what I want to be doing. Okay, well, stop telling yourself that story then. So this is where it's not just about doing the external things, it's challenging the internal stuff, which is a challenge to do for ourselves because it has us hooked. So where possible, if it's an accountability partner, whether it's a colleague at work or your partner, it's really a challenge to do with friends and partners because they know us so well, and they may not necessarily hear the patterns that we do. But if you are open to it, then do it with a partner. And of course, if you want to work with a fabulous coach, get in contact. I can't do it all through a 30-minute slot of talking to my phone every week. As much as that's what I want to give you is as much information, but it's got to take you taking action as well. And that's where it comes back to the loop at the beginning about honesty. I'll take a breath. So Vicky's put, one of the main things I picked up on the 7 keys, and if you haven't got the 7 keys of confidence, go to juleswyman.com and you'll see that there's a free sign up there so you can get that. So Vicky says, one of the main things I picked up on the 7 keys is about how you talk to yourself in your head. You can easily be so self-destructive with yourself and whatever you are saying to yourself in your head, and you begin to believe. Therefore, the advice you gave, would you speak to a young child in the same way? What if being kind to yourself really could change everything? Invaluable. I love it, Vicky. That people are quoting stuff back at me. That's fantastic. So yeah, absolutely. What if being kind to yourself? And interestingly enough, Vicky, when I share this in my Truth About Confidence talk, I was blown away. I've had this happen a number of times, but it was the one time that it really blew me away was there was about 250 people in this particular talk that I did. And this guy came up afterwards, I would say early, mid-30s, came up to me and he said, I really took a lot from that, and I'm really curious as to what to do and how to move things forward. He said, but I'm stuck. I don't know how to move forward on one particular thing. And I said, okay, well, what's that one thing? And he said, I don't know what being kind to myself is. And I thought it was an extremely brave thing to do because there were a lot of people who stood around. But that's the level of honesty I'm talking about. That he says, do you know what? I really want to do this thing differently. And I recognise I haven't a clue what that thing is. So we had a discussion around that and looked at how he could do that differently. But that's honesty. I want to do things differently, but I don't know how. Can you help? Does that make sense? So thank you for that, Vicky. And Rachel has put, yep, Jules, off my feet for 4 more weeks until next x-ray. My first thought is I can't do this. Missing being able to do everyday stuff, work, exercise so badly. So Rachel, this is, to me, I think you've been given a gift to be able to learn something about yourself that you potentially wouldn't have been able to learn about yourself if both your feet were functioning. And you've been able to run, I didn't mean that, your normal day to day. This is about you being able to do things differently. So this is important for you. It's a really important, valuable, beautiful lesson for you to be able to look at yourself differently, think about yourself differently in order for you to experience this time and this process for yourself. So just flip it around, I can't do this, I can't do that. Okay, what can I do? What can I do from this space that I'm at right now? You know what, I can't go out for a run, but I could read. I could read on, or watch some videos about how to improve my technique. I could do some great visualizations about running and healing. There are so many things I could chuck out at you at this moment in time that you could do this and you could do that and have a go with that. But I'm sure that you will find something that's relevant and useful for you. So I've spoken, well, it feels like for me I've spoken at 100 miles an hour. Maybe you can hit pause if you're already watching this, or you can always go back and watch the recording. So what's your one takeaway? For those of you who are still on watching live, and for those of you who are watching the recording, it's a perfect time for you to jot below. What is your one takeaway from this evening session that's gonna be supportive for you? Or what questions do you now have that you would like to be answered? And I didn't actually, I forgot to do a bit of a little kind of celebratory dance at the beginning, because this is episode 60 allegedly. I think I might have made some numbers up along the way, but I've been doing it. I need to check, but I think it was confidence question time, and then we changed it to the confidence conversation. Has been going for nearly a year now. So we're still experimenting, we're still looking at it, still looking at the viability and the use of it. So any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, or bank details would be gratefully received where that's concerned. And next Monday is not a bank holiday, but the one after is. So next Monday is on at 7 p.m, same place, same time, 7 p.m. UK, whatever that is in the world for wherever you are. So if you've got any questions or any other thoughts, insights that you want to post about this particular topic, about frustrating and being frustrated or getting frustrated or feeling stuck, then make sure you put that in the comments below, even if you're watching the recording, because I do see them and I do come back to them. So it's always great to be able to see. If you've got something that you would like the topic to be, then remember you can either send me a message on this page, or you can email me jules@juleswyman.com, and you can remember the frame up that I was offering earlier, which is hey Jules, love confidence question time. I did it again. Confidence conversation. Here is my question. That's what I was thinking about. Here is my question. So fantastic. Thank you very much for that. And I think that's about it. Obviously, if you have, you want to find out more about working with me one-to-one, or any of the group work, any workshops, I am still looking for a venue for the next Truth About Confidence Day, which will be in the beautiful city of York, but I will let you know when that is happening. And if you know of a beautiful venue in York that would be suitable, then please do send me the details. But until then, Christine has put honesty. That's what I'll take away. I love that, Christine. It's the key to everything. It really is. And it's something that I'm only really engaging with, learning about on the multiple levels that it's really there, because it's a biggie. So thank you for that. And if you're watching this live, if you're watching the recording, then remember that you can post any comments as if you're watching it live, and I will come back to those as well. So thank you so much to all of you who have joined. I'm going to be scooching off and going and having some more water and some more spray on my head to ease this magnificent headache. And I hope that I've made sense this evening. I apologise if I've spoken at 100 miles an hour. But if you do have any other questions, then let me know. And it's been fantastic to share this evening with you. And I look forward to speaking to you next week. Same time, same place. See you later.